From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to Kona. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
This is a phenomenal bike ride, and I can tell you he's so casual. This is his first time he's ever biked the full 112 miles here in Hawaii. He's never been up to the turn in Harvey. He's certainly been up there today. Doesn't he look...
Hey everybody, welcome to Breakfast with Bob, St. George edition. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, HOKA, Let's Fly, SFuels, Go Longer, Biostarks. Use the code Breakfast with Bob, BWB10 for a 10% discount. Quintanaroo, Forum Smart Swim Goggles, Zions Bank, Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Olympic silver medalist and the MVP from the Collins Cup in the time she went there. Taylor Knibb joins us. Taylor, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I am wonderful. So the finish line is right behind us here, and you had a great race the last time you were here.
Yes, I'd say it was very good. Definitely room for improvement, and Lucy kind of smoked everyone on the day, so hopefully there's a little bit more of a race this year.
So talk to me a little bit about getting into this sport. Was it your mom that got you into this?
Well, yes, in many ways, because she did it, and so it was kind of the influence. But I wanted to do it, I guess. I was watching, and so it's not like she pushed us, my brother and I, into it in any way.
Wasn't child abuse.
No. Not that any parent having their kid make a race a triathlon would be.
Exactly.
I think it's just like it opens you up to a lifelong sport, and I'm grateful for where it's taken me so far.
Well, and that Olympic experience, what was that like? Because it obviously Tokyo was a little different because of, you know, a lot of the indoor game events didn't have fans, but you guys, there was people out there for you guys.
Well, yes, and I think that without fans and without people, it changed it definitely, but it made it a very positive experience because I got to know my USA Triathlon teammates very well, and one of whom you know very well, Katie Zaferis. She is just an incredible person, and she was the only one on the team who had been to Rio, and she went to Rio, wasn't the experience or race that she wanted.
Right.
And so she was doing Tokyo different, and she kind of took the lead, and she made sure that not only she, but if anyone wanted to experience things, like went around the village and she did all the pins. I didn't partake in that. But so I think that like, thanks to Katie and all the other USA Triathlon team members, it was great because like we had dinner together, breakfast together, lunch together. We did a lot of things together. And then to finish it off with the relay, like it was a great culmination to the experience, and I'm not sure we would have had that experience together as a team had we had our families there.
Yeah, and the cool part about that, when you go to the Olympics, it's like, okay, this is business as usual. I'm going to stay away from everything. Or it's, listen, how many times am I going to go to the Olympics? I better experience everything. Oh, and then there's also sort of a balance in between.
Yes, I'm not sure I balanced that out well because I think that some of the advice I'd been given was it's just another race, and that's what you want to tell yourself. It's just another race. And I think that that's both the most accurate and inaccurate statement because the only thing that was similar to any other race was the second the starting gun went off to the finish line. That was the same, yes. But then everything else, which is part of the race, like it's become part of the race, like the lead up and even after. So so it was the race was similar, but then everything else was a little bit different.
I remember chatting with one of our America's top marathoners, Ryan Hall, about his Olympic experience in Beijing. And he said, for my whole athletic career, every time I was at a major race, and even when I was in high school and college, my dad would say, hey, there's 2 billion people in China who could care less about what happens to you today. And he said that morning, he was chuckling, going, that doesn't work today, Dad. In Beijing, there's a lot of billion people here who really care about everything that happens here. Going from the Olympic experience and then trying to balance this longer distance, Collins Cup type of racing and 70.3, how hard has that been?
Well, I'm not sure kind of the balance, like if it is a balance, I think that the two actually complement each other well, and that I'm kind of learning from each. And I think that each exposes a weakness of mine, or many weaknesses of mine. I'm still developing as an athlete. I have lots of room for improvement. And so, like, for example, like the long course, you can't really hide on the nutrition front. And I think that it's only helping me on my short course racing because, yes, I might be able to fake it a little bit more, but am I really optimizing my nutrition in the short course racing, which has been exposed in the long course racing? And so in the short course race, you can't really hide in your swim either. So it's like the two can kind of, instead of balancing, I think the two are kind of more layering on each other and hopefully building a better athlete ultimately. But talk to me in a few years and see if that works.
But the plan is to go to Paris.
Well, hopefully, and then hopefully LA, because I mean,
so
2028,
yes.
I'll be 30 at that point.
Yes.
And like a home Olympics, that would be extremely special. So like that's kind of the focus, but you never know what happens. I mean, long course races are very fun. Maybe I won't be saying that during the race on Friday, but I'm enjoying the racing.
The thing with the long course racing, it really allows you to showcase cycling. Right. Obviously, the criterium style that you guys race for ITU is a little different because you're accelerating out of turns and there's big packs. But then, as a time trialist, I mean, you showed up at Collins Cup with a road bike and kicked everybody. Had the best ride of the day. Adapting to the aero position, how tough has that been?
Well, I think that that's the key. It's very much adapting, and I have a great team around me who's like helped me make the position change.
Yes.
And it's been a work in progress, but they kind of know that it's like, okay, I got my first time trial bike in January, needed to learn to ride it. I mean, the first time I unclipped on that thing was very difficult. I almost like tipped over at a stoplight because it's just different. And so, but I think that like the speeds at which you can carry, especially on downhills, I think is only helping my short course racing now because it's kind of like I'm motor pacing or going at speeds that I used to go motor pacing. And so it's just like learning how to be one with the bike a bit more. So hopefully they help each other.
So 2022, you had a third in WTCS race. You got second in PTO Open. That was pretty, I mean, you're used to heat, obviously, racing in Tokyo, but that was pretty hot.
It was, and I think, so I had an injury this summer, and so I only started running again the day of the Collins Cup. I had to pull out last minute. I was like hopeful, like I was fit, I just wasn't cleared to run yet. And I'm like, so like that was like the ultimate decision to pull out, and then finally I was able to race Dallas, but we didn't really get to do the heat prep that I was in, like we were hoping to do, because it was the balance of like, okay, we're returning to run right now, and so like my coach kind of told me, like, we're going to get you to the start line. You're not going to have necessarily the heat prep because we don't want to add too many variables.
Right.
And so, like, my aim was to just see the aim of Dallas was more to just get back into racing. So then WTS Cagliari wasn't my first race back in 5 months.
Right.
And so without having to travel to Europe, because there weren't any World Cups or WTS races on this continent in September. So Dallas was really just to prep me for Cagliari more so. And so I took away what I needed to. My swim was good, and then my bike was where it needed to be, and then the run, I took it out a bit too quick, and I definitely overheated. So
you weren't the only one.
But it doesn't make it any better. Just because someone else does it doesn't make it right. But we've learned from that, and hopefully, well, I don't know if that'll be an issue on Friday, but.
So we have the finish line is basically the last straight is right behind us here. And what would it mean to you to win this race?
Oh, wow. I think I wouldn't be able to answer that question until it happened. That would be huge, but there's so many incredible women on this start line. I mean, like, there are a lot of women here that can win.
Absolutely.
And we'll just see how the race plays out. It's like I'm just extremely grateful to be on the start line and to get to race these women.
So we just came back from Ironman World Championships in Kona, and you were there in 2010 watching your mom race.
Yes.
And what did you gain from that? That had to be pretty darn fun watching mom race, because it's like a little bit of a three-ring circus. You're running all over the place trying to catch her at different. And back then, you really didn't have a tracker to know where she was at different parts of the day.
No, and my dad, he decided to take my brother and I out on the like Queen K. Like we could like take a parallel road, I think. I wasn't sure. My brother and I were in the back seat at the time, just like probably annoying each other. And but that said, this is actually key to the story. So my mom, I think they were turning. They were coming down from, you come back down from Hobby, and then like there's a little climb, and you like make a right hand turn back onto the Queen K, I think. Like it was at some intersection. And so we were on a climb, and my brother and I, we'd been waiting out in the sun a while. And when my mom passed, we were fighting. We didn't even see her. And but then so her whole ride back, she's like, oh no, like the kids are fighting, and like my dad has to deal with this. And so my brother and I were not invited back
because you were fighting while she was running, while she was going by.
And it wasn't helpful for her race. I mean, she had that in her head for the remainder of the ride. Yes, it's hopefully I would be a better supporter now, having had more experience racing. But yes, I got to see Kona, but haven't seen it since in person.
So when you're racing the WTCS races, it's close proximity. You guys are racing each other, and the best person. Well, I always look at the longer course races. Usually, the best person is going to win on the day, but there's way more tactics in the shorter distance racing. Can you be friends with the other women? And is it different between the short course, the WTCS style racing, and the longer course in terms of the relationships you can have with the people competing with?
Well, I think you can have relationships with both. I happen to have a great relationship with Jeannie Metzler. And
yes. She's
a long course racer, but I think it's possible in short course racing too. A lot of women do. And
yes.
So it's just like, the thing is that it's a sport that's very unique. We spend a lot of time doing it. So I think that the people who would know it best are your other racers, and you see everyone. I mean, especially the short course racing, you see everyone so frequently. It's kind of just like you go to a different city and it's all the same, like the same 150 or maybe 100 people. Like, yes. Why did we even have to travel?
Why can't we just do it in our backyard? And that's the other side of this. There's so few of those WTCS races in the U.S. You basically have to live overseas how many months of the year?
Well, I don't. I travel.
You go in for the races rather than...
Yes, but that's my personal choice. I don't know what I'll be doing in a few years from now. But yes, the last time we had a WTS race in the U.S. was 2015 in Chicago.
Yes. That's amazing.
Yes,
that's a long time.
It's a very long time, but
that's a ton of travel for you then, going back and forth.
Yeah, well, it wasn't this summer because I didn't really race that much. I mean, I've only raced 4 times this year.
Injuries, but normally, because I remember Katie would base herself overseas for most of the summer, just because they'd have training camps and then race, and they'd be gone for 9-10 months of the year.
Yes, well, especially in like the winter with people like the warmer weather.
Yes, yeah.
But then like last year we had 2 of the WTS races were in Canada, so it was good to be based in the United States.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
So it just depends on the year, depends on the calendar, and for a lot of people it's kind of hopping across the way. I mean, this summer it was Leeds and then Montreal and then back to Hamburg, all 2 weeks apart. So someone had to make a transatlantic flight regardless.
Oh, God. So Cornell, mom went to Cornell. Maternal grandparents went to Cornell, 2 cousins, 3 uncles. You didn't have a heck of a choice, did you?
Oh, no, I very much did.
Did you?
And I kind of didn't want to go to Cornell. Because I didn't want to just like follow that lead. But it just kept pulling me back. I remember like we visited, and it was a really like in March of my junior year of high school, and it was a really gray day, and the tour wasn't great. And I remember we were driving away from it, and it had been the end of a college tour week with my mom, and my mom's like, "You probably don't want to go to Cornell, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm still interested." Like it didn't say like scream no immediately, because I think I went to Cornell for the people, and I had an incredibly supportive run coach. And then I had been talking with the swim coach, and my run coach actually said like my WTS swims weren't going so well. And so he's like, I think you should really like join the swim team. Like I've talked with Pat, the swim coach, and I think that this would be really helpful, because like everyone knew kind of my aim in college was to become a better triathlete. And they were very supportive. I mean, I was fighting a bit of a cold the last day of the Ivy League swim meet, and in 2020, like 2 weeks before the world shut down. And like I was debating whether I should race or not. And my coach said, you know, it's up to you, Taylor. Like you have much more important races this year. And we are all fully supportive of those races and you in that. And so, and I ended up racing, and then I didn't race again the whole year. So, but it was that, like, everyone was like, it was such a great place. The people are incredible, and I'm so grateful I went there.
Yeah, it's fascinating because a lot of times your college coaches are like, well, you're a runner. Even though they sort of know what your background is and you're going into triathlon, you want to be a great runner, a great swimmer, but they want you to focus on that sport. It's very unique that you had coaches who understood you're swimming for triathlon. Running is part of this program.
Well, and the rare thing was, I think that my college coach was open to learn. And so my sophomore year, I'd gone in more of like a try to run and just focus on running my like cross country season, and it didn't go well. And then, so heading into my junior year, my triathlon coach at the time, Neil Henderson, he's like, you know, like based on how you are as an athlete, and he's like, what we're going to do is we're going to take away your long run, which college coaches don't love that. We are going to like drop your mileage. It was probably 60 to 70% of what I did my sophomore year. One workout a week. And
you go back to your coach with that. Yeah.
No, he brought it up to the coach.
Oh,
and
he communicated with the coach directly.
Yes, and that's something that like was amazing, that my triathlon coach and my college coaches were in communication. And my college coach was like, okay, great, we'll try it. And I had my best season yet. I improved drastically, and it was because I think, and it was great just to like have that as an experience, that you can do things differently, and that just like if you trust in the people around you, it's really something special can happen. But don't be willing to try something different, because more isn't better always. But like it was just great to see.
Well, and it's great to see coaches being open to that, because I've seen it a lot where back in the day we had Lucas Verzbikas, who was a top 5th kid to break the high school 4-minute mile, right? But he went to Oregon immediately 90 miles a week, and I think he was a kid who was running 35 miles a week before that. As a runner, he became as a triathlete, he became a great runner. But coaches need to be, in this day and age, I think they need to be aware that there's a bigger purpose. Oh,
yes, entirely. And actually, one of the reasons why I went to, like, I chose Cornell was because I saw how many of the like former athletes were still competing, because I think that that's also key in a program. And like, you know what, like some coaches will see I have you for 4, in some cases, some schools will get 5 or 6 years. That doesn't happen in the Ivy League. And they're like, well, we'll get every ounce of you, and we don't care if you run a step afterwards. But like to see that runners were like from this program were still improving after college and still wanted to run and still could compete. Yes. That was a huge like green flag for me in terms of like, yes, I want to be part of this, because like I hope that I'm not my best at age 22.
Exactly. No. And it's funny because Meb Keflezighi's coach Bob Larson, I asked him what makes a successful coach. He goes, if my kids are still running 10 years after I was working with them, that's a success. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah, well, because yes, sport's a huge part of our life, and it's not about like titles won or something like that. Yes. It's the experience and the journey.
I love it, and you seem to love this journey.
Oh yes, I do.
Taylor, thank you so much for taking time. Always such a treat to catch up with you. Keep doing what you're doing. I love the smile. You just light up the room everywhere you go.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always great to talk with you.
Taylor Knibb, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob from beautiful St. George. Hold on. We'll be right back.